Okay, what we're going to do here is we're going to look at adding another feature to our car class. So in the last video, I built out a car class just to really show you, the value of static global variables. And here I have a quite ugly GUI, but the idea of this GUI is that I can add in the make, model, year of a car. I've disabled the sticker number, so I can type, but nothing goes into that field. That's really just for visual effect anyways. But I've also added in this button that says load a default car. And this is really handy if you're doing work with GUIs where you have to fill in a lot of fields. Sometimes rather than having to type it out every single time you make a little change, if you create a little button, it'll just auto-populate things for you. And then you'll always have, a vehicle you can work with. So in this GUI, if I hit submit, it's going to show me that same little, sticker number dash year, make and model. Now, with this, I've got a default image. But what I want to do is I want to be able to click on this button here, this choose image, and have it take me to what's called a file chooser object to allow me to choose a particular image file that I want. So let's take a look at things. Let's take look at a couple of things here. So one, in my new car controller, what I have so far is I have the idea of a new car object. I have a few text fields, right? So if I overlap these, you can see here's my make text field, here's my model text field, my mileage text field, the year, whoops. And then the sticker number, this field's disabled, so I can't change it. And the way that you can do that is actually quite easy. In your initialize method, I set the sticker number field, set the editable field to false. And you can see I've loaded a default image for the car, which I keep just right here in this directory. And I actually don't even have my error label really properly configured right now. And my new car label, which comes down here, when the scene first launches, it's blank. That's what that is. So when I create a new car object, you can see I don't have any try catch or anything on here. So if the user puts in bad data, it's going to break. Your assignments will be much more robust than this. This is done just for the purposes of explaining the file chooser. And the idea of a default car, again, I just take each of those text fields and I'm putting in some default values. So that's all that I have in my controller so far. So what I want to do is I want to connect this button to launch something called the file chooser. So to do that, I need to create a new method. Now this part here might seem a little bit new to you, where we pass in something called an action event. And that's something that JavaFX uses, these events, to pass information around in the system. In our case, what we're going to do is use this event, which is automatically triggered by our button. When the button's pushed, it'll trigger the event. And from that, we're able to actually get the stage. So if you remember from the other JavaFX videos, when we go to create our application and have it launch, it loads something on a stage, which a lot of us would commonly call the window. So in this video, in order to launch this new file chooser object, we need to get a hold of the stage so that we can add to it. So what we're going to do is in here, I'm going to say, get the stage to open a new window, also known as the stage. And this part I don't expect you to memorize. Know where you can find it, but you don't need to memorize any of this stuff. So basically, this is where I'm casting here. So I'm taking an event, and I say get the source, and then I'm casting that as a type of node, in which case I can say get the scene, and from the scene we can say get the window. And we're going to cast that now as a stage object. So we now have a stage similar to in the main method here where we passed in a stage. By doing this, now we have a stage object that we can use. And we can say file chooser, and I'm just going to call it the file chooser, equals a new file chooser. Now, just by doing that, it should launch a file chooser. Now, it won't do anything for us, but we should be able to see it. So let's hit save, and I'm going to go into my view now and connect this method up with the button. So here's my button. I click on it. I'm going to go to my code section on the far right, and on that action, we'll connect up our method. Hit save. Sometimes I like to just click on them, make sure that it's definitely there. Hit play. So now our scene launches. If I click on choose image, oh, it did not work. Let's see. Try that one more time. Sometimes I find there's like a little delay in making this. Okay. I forgot one important piece. What's returned from the file chooser is an actual file object. So I'm going to say file. Actually, we can do this. We'll say file chooser show open dialog, and this is where we have to pass in the stage. Okay, so what this will do is this will make the file chooser visible. So if I click on choose image now, it launches our file chooser object. It has our open image title at the top, and you can see by default it basically just goes to this PC. If you're on a Mac, it's going to go to the default directory on the Mac. Now usually people keep their images on PC anyways in the pictures directory, so we want it to go here. But this, at this point, at least opens the file chooser object. Now if I select a file and say open, nothing happens. And that's because although we've opened the file chooser, we haven't actually stored the file that comes back from it. So I'm going to say file. So this file chooser, when it runs, what it'll do is when you click on open, it returns the file object. Okay, so you may remember from our last course at the end of the fundamentals course, we talked about files and the difference between files and how files can know if they're a file or a directory when they're created. There's all kinds of things we can do with a file. So we can do something simple here. We can say if the image file, or sorry, let's call it if the file, I'm going to do this because what we want is an image, so we're going to call it the image file. If it is indeed a file, it's not a directory, because remember, it could also be a directory when you create file objects. Let's just print it out for now. So we'll say get the path. So when I click on something, it'll return the file object, and then we'll see where the path is. So let's hit play. So if I choose the image, oops, go to pictures, and we'll take this one here, I'll say open, and down below you can see the path was users, JWrite, pictures, and it actually has, you know, the name of the image. So it takes us a fair bit of the way, right? Just being able to do this. But what we want to do is we want to update the image in our view. So what I'm going to do is, rather than just print out the path, which can be good for troubleshooting, I'm going to say image, what did we call it? What do we call the image view? Image view, good name. So image view, set the image, and here what we're going to do is we're going to load a new image, and I'm going to ask the image file to convert itself to a URI and to string. And what this will do is the new image constructor will now take this file object and basically following the path, it's going to go and get that file, and then which should update our view. So let's take a quick look. So I'm going to choose the image and navigate to my pictures directory. This isn't a car, but it'll do. Say open, and sure enough, we now navigated to that image, and we've loaded that image into our view. So there you have it, a quick and easy way to use a file chooser object to load an image. In the next video, we'll talk about how when we click on this, we can actually get it to filter for particular types of image or files like PNG or JPEG, and we'll also talk about how can we give it a default directory so it'll just jump straight to something like this. All right, thanks very much.